Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fourth episode of DATT TV. This week we're going to discuss, as usual, the top 5 stories from around the Google Plus community related to assistive technology and disability today, as usual. If you'd like, you can leave comments on the page where we announce the video, and we'll do our best to answer those comments. Jeremy and I will both be monitoring that page as we go today. Last week we might kind of missed a conversation going on there as the story was happening. So anyway, we'll keep a better eye on that. And also I should mention that if you go to our website, DATT.tv, there's an IRC client there that would allow you to have a direct communication link with us during the show. So if you want to participate, ask questions, the IRC room is live and ready to rock and roll. So hit us with your questions if you like mid-show, and we'll do our very best to answer them on the fly. So I guess I'm going to take the first story, right, Jeremy? Actually, before we start that, we should probably do some introductions. I'm Andrew Daley. I'm an assistive technologist and learning strategist for the University of New Brunswick, and it's my job to research assistive technology and deploy it in a post-secondary educational institution. And with me today is Sir Jeremy Murray, who is my colleague for the DATT show, and I'll let him do his introduction.
Well, I guess I'd just like to say that I'm glad to be here once again for the 4th installment of this hopefully long-lived weekly adventure that we tend to have.
Me too. So, top story today, number 1 that we picked as one of our bleeding edge stories is that IBM is standardizing EPUBs, and I think this is fantastic because EPUBs are really good for accessibility because they forced publishers to use proper headings and links and image tags and all kinds of different things that you wouldn't normally see in, say, a PDF or a Word document. I mean, you could have those things in a Word document, but it's not as nice as a finished EPUB. Most of the online retailers who are selling electronic books are selling an EPUB. In some cases, they sell PDF as well, but most cases, Amazon and all those other places are EPUB. And for instance, there's EPUB readers in the Android market. You can read them on a Kobo. You can read them actually, I just heard that there was one of the Kobos being discontinued just recently, color one, touchscreen. But all these readers from the other organizations like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and so on, they all read EPUBs. So I think that for one company, IBM in this case, to sort of take the lead in creating a standard for EPUBs, I think is a really great step. And I know from my experiences here on the DATT forum or in the DATT community that IBM accessibility is quite a regularly active member, and they do contribute a lot to the assistive technology field online, and we do comment on quite a few of their stories here. Unfortunately, there aren't any in our top 5 this week, but maybe if they see this video, then maybe they'll start to post more and maybe contribute more. I should also say before we continue on with the next story and comment Jeremy's comments on the EPUB is that we really appreciate the community, and it's grown way more than I'd ever thought. Now, it's not anything like, Cult of Mac or, Google Plus's own community, of course, but 537 members is, in my mind, quite significant, and I really appreciate, everything that gets contributed, all the comments that we do get. I'm hoping that as this show continues on, we'll get more interaction from the folks who are, that are out there on the internet watching the show live. I would assume that as time goes on, it'll get more popular and there'll be more interaction, and it'll become more of a real community live experience. What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, I think that we may be a small group compared to like the bigger communities, like you said earlier, Cultumac, blah 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 blah. But we're like I would say a close-knit family because many of us that contribute on a daily basis or whatever get to know each other because we get to know each other's stories and we start thinking, well, maybe this would help somebody like that particular person, and so we share stories that we feel might be a benefit to other people, which makes
Absolutely.
us more open,
Yeah.
which is a great feeling, and I'm glad to be a part of it as an admin. And like I said before, I hope things like this continue to grow and we're
No,
around for a long time.
no bias to the Cult of Mac community. I I bring it up because I'm a moderator on that community, so it's the one that keeps coming to mind right away. But the Google Plus communities that are around, there's actually some really cool ones like Chrome AT is a great Google Plus community for assistive technology, especially the free stuff.
Universal talk isn't bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry, I thought I needed that.
yeah. Might have been me, but that's okay. So what do you think of the EPUB story, Jeremy? Any comments on that?
Well, me as a student who uses electronic text a lot for every piece of uh, book that I need, I have an electronic version of it. And like you said before, EPUBs are widely used in a variety of different things, such as this right here, new iPhone. You can use EPUBs on that. I personally, right now, use PDFs for all my books, just because at this moment I find it easier to work around with. Maybe if this standardization from IBM comes into play, I might switch over to EPUBs because it is a much smoother read for something like an iPhone or an iPad, which I have both of them, like a massive mobile user. Um, so I'm excited to see what changes this brings, but at the same time, I'm a stickler and I like to stick to the things that I know work, so I'll probably stick to PDFs just because I know they work for what I want.
Yeah, the one thing that I have always said about EPUBs is that they're a lot of work. If you've ever tried to take a PDF and convert it to an EPUB, you have to use a piece of software like Calibre.
Which
And
just basically takes it out of columns. And
right,
textbooks, you don't want to do that because
right.
you rely on the columns.
So it's really boils down to the publishers being able to create effective, useful EPUBs for this whole framework to be functional. And I think that that's where IBM's coming from. They're saying, let's create a standard that publishers can use, or people who want to publish their own material can use to make the document as accessible as humanly possible.
But then I think the issue becomes, will the publishers take the standard and accept it? Like as we're finding now with the early 2000s, we were having issues with like broadband television and people not accepting the standard that was being accepted, like 30% Canadian television, and they're still to this day having trouble with that. I only bring this up because I'm in a media program, and that's one of the big things we talk about is like coverage and standardization and all that stuff. So I'm worried, will the publishers actually take the standardization and use it? Because they don't have to unless they're federally regulated or internationally regulated. They don't have to accept it.
But
And really,
it has a lot to do with demand too. I mean, if the people who are reading their books demand an EPUB, then they're going to have to sort of conform. But
well,
my experience has been up to this point that publishers are really reluctant to give up electronic copies of their documents or their printed material unless a printed copy has been purchased. And
they're afraid of sharing.
so there's no real incentive for them to produce a good quality electronic text. I mean, we've seen some pretty bad electronic texts come from directly from the publishers upon request, and they're not very good. So
Yeah, yeah, we both have.
the problem with creating a standard, if there's no enforcement body to back it up, then there's no real point. But I think that if people like me and you, Jeremy, and people in the community that utilize this type of technology push for this and encourage the students and the folks that we're talking to about the technology to use the format the EPUB format, then it may become eventually the standard. I mean, PDF is by default become the standard only because it's the only real universal format that we don't have any trouble with. When we create electronic documents here, we always use PDF because it's the thing that we can count on every time. But with EPUBs, you've got to format it with a formatting software like Calibre, and it's a lot of extra manual work, and it can be very complex.
Sorry, we just got a question here. I'm trying to read it to give an answer.
Sure.
Just can't make out that last word. I don't know. My eyes aren't working all that great right now.
Is this on? This is on the link.
On the event, yeah, on the event. It was asked by Tom Snyder. It's right there at the top. Oh, columns. The advantage of columns. Well, just with textbooks, a lot of them are organized within columns. You'll have like a column of information, and within the column you'll have a picture. But if you were to take, if you were to use Calibre to turn a PDF ebook into an EPUB, what it does is it strips all the pictures out and takes your first column and then puts it above your second column. So you're reading like your first column and then straight into your second column. You're missing all the information from your pictures. And with textbooks, a lot of it is organized in that way that you'll read a column, you'll see a picture, and then you'll have like the description of what the picture is underneath. So with Calibre, what they do is they take the picture out, but they leave the description. So when they put the first column on top of the second column, you read your column, and then at the very bottom you get the descriptions of all the pictures, and it gets all jumbled. And a lot of times you cannot edit that out. You have to accept it that way. And if you're reading on the go, it's a bit of a pain to have to ignore, because, yeah.
I mean, you can do some finagling with Calibre when you're formatting PDFs into EPUB, but
it's a matter of time. And as a student, we don't like waiting for our textbooks. But my opinion has since changed since I work in the area where the electronic textbooks are made, and it takes time. So maybe within the future people will ask for more EPUBs, and I mean I'll gladly give it a shot if this standardization actually takes hold and gets a lot of backing. I'll try anything as long as it's going to make my education easier, or daily life or whatever. Just reading a normal book essentially would be great. I'm not much of a reader. I typically read studies, but what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of ease of use, the PDF seems to be the way to go, but that's only because that's what we've used. If we could get a formulated way of creating EPUBs that, that didn't violate the order of the textbook or whatever it is that you're reading, so the columns were, maintained and so on, you can do that, but again, it takes a lot of work and it takes time. It's not something that's automatically done. You have to do some work.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that there are some very impatient people that don't want to do that work.
And I should also mention that, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, that it was Jeff Kang, that posted this story. So thanks to Jeff on that one. And I think that there's a lot more discussion to be had. I think that a lot of people have opinions about electronic text, whether the EPUB's better or PDFs are better. I know that years back Adobe created their own accessible PDF documentation creation standard, and it seems to work. Again, it's all about enforcement. You can only create a standard, you can't enforce it. So
unless it's federally regulated.
But that's, I mean, in Canada, that's not going to happen. In the States, there are some guidelines in Section 508 of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but they're not so specific as to how an electronic document should be formatted. So.
But they're changing now because they're starting to realize. Sorry for my hand in my face. I had an itchy eyeball. They're changing now because people are starting to realize that electronic texts are being used more and more, but not just for people with disabilities. I mean, that's a massive use for them. But people that are on the go and just don't have time to carry around a paper book anymore because they're like, a good 20 pounds for one textbook, and you've got to carry around 5 of them. It's pretty heavy on the back.
Yes, agreed. Very much so. All right, so story number two. I guess you're going to take that, Jeremy?
Yeah. Story number 2 for this week's episode was all about wearable tech and how wearable tech may be able to help people with disabilities. More specifically, Google Glass. This was shared by a community member, Aylin.
I believe his name's Andy.
I believe it is too, but I wasn't sure if you wanted people to know
Andy
that.
Lynn,
So,
yeah, plus Andy Lynn.
Or plus Aylin.
All right.
Yeah. So actually, the story was about Aylin and the work that he's doing with hacking of Google Glass and making it so people with like ALS and muscular dystrophy and cerebral palsy can use Google Glass easier in terms of having motor issues and not being able to use the trackpad on the Google Glass or be able to access the menus. As a standalone device, though, from what I understand, I personally haven't used one, but from what I understand, the Google Glass has done great work in making it usable via voice commands. But Andy Lynn has taken this to a whole other step. He's using a multi-switch. So what he did is he connected a joystick via micro USB extensions, and I forget the name of the board that was used.
Oh, an Arduino.
Yeah. He connected the multi-switch to your Google Glass and then connected a joystick to the Google Glass through the micro USB port so you could swipe through the menus while wearing Google Glass. Instead of using the trackpad, you could use a joystick, like a joystick that's built into an electric wheelchair. And I think this in itself creates a great use, because who knows, in the future maybe wheelchair companies will build this, you'll be able to program out, like you hit a button on your wheelchair and you can control your Google Glass or your phone with the movement of your joystick, like they do with Tilt. So I think that's a great innovation, and I'm not saying something like that would happen, but I think it would be sweet. As somebody, like, I'm a big tech person. I always have technology with me. So the more I can control it, the better for me. And I only have use of one hand, like I'm really good. So any kind of advancement that can improve my ease of use for any technology that I might love to use, such as Google Glass, I'm open for seeing. And I hope Andy Lynn continues with his hacking of Google Glass to make people's lives benefit from this new innovative technology that Google is putting out. And I feel it has some great use for people with disabilities.
I think too that it has it's great because it's open source. So, he's creating an open platform that can be developed by anybody, and the fact that he's using the Arduino, which in and of itself is a great piece of technology. There's lots of applications for these open access technologies. Marcus, who lives in the Philippines, does a lot of work with.
Marcus Williams.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with the Raspberry Pi, which is part of the same family of programmable boards. So there's lots of stuff going on with that. The unfortunate thing about it is that it's not a commercial product. So as these things get developed, there's no real commercial way to buy it. So it's a great piece of technology. I think the future is bright in this area, but broad delivery is going to be complicated and probably expensive.
I just want to go back to the story that talks about Andy Lynn's work. In the story, it discusses why he started doing it, and he started doing it because of where he works. He has patients that have muscular dystrophy and CP, and they sort of missed a section of their life, I guess you could say, where they have trouble sharing, they have trouble communicating with family and friends. So being able to use something like Google Glass and take a picture or share something with your friends via Facebook or Google Plus or whatever just makes that social interaction so much easier for those who can't communicate.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And some of the people that he was that they're testing this project out with have never had that experience of taking a picture and sharing it with a friend and family because they couldn't communicate. They couldn't run a computer. They couldn't run a camera because they couldn't click the button to take the picture. They couldn't share it on Facebook because they couldn't use a computer. So with Google Glass and being something you could wear and be able to control with a joystick or a button or whatever, it just makes it so much easier for people who can't normally communicate and be more social.
Yeah.
Which breaks down barriers by itself.
Hopefully, hopefully Andy Lynn will make the schematics available publicly once he's fine-tuned and finalized the project, so that people who are capable will be able to put it together.
Sorry about that, Andrew.
Yeah.
I just want to say he did post a proof of concept video on our community. It's also within the story, and the links will be posted with the show notes. And there is a proof of concept video both in the story that we're getting our information from and on our community that he really explains, how he set it up. And so if you wanted to go back and you wanted to try to set it up yourself, if you had Google Glass, you could. There's going to be some cost, obviously, but you could do it. Mind you, it's rough work and it's not really usable yet.
Well, like I said, as it develops, and hopefully he'll make the schematics, because when you use the Arduino products, there's actually a code base that would come with the switch. Like if he's going to deliver it, the source code itself it would be made available, and then you would upload it to your Arduino, and then it would work in the same way. So, and then you can modify it and then re-upload it back to the Arduino. They're pretty cool, these little boards.
I should say I'm not exactly sure if he is using an Arduino or what he's using.
No, I'm pretty sure it's an Arduino. It's part of it is a microcontroller. So,
I just think it's cool, and I'm taking it a little bit more abstract, I guess, the fact that you could possibly at some point make your wheelchair be able to control something like a phone or Google Glass, because that's what he's using. He's using a joystick that typically could be found on an electric wheelchair. So I think that's just a sweet multi-switch idea.
It also he also talks about in the article how Google Glass already comes with some features for people with disabilities. I've never had the opportunity to test a Google Glass myself, which I would love to do.
Me neither, but I have heard that. Sorry for cutting you off again. I have a habit of that. I have heard that Google Glass comes with the built-in voice control through Google Now, so you can say Google Glass, do this, and you can control mostly everything with your Google Glass through voice, except for scrolling through menus and things like that. And that's where this joystick kind of comes in handy. It allows you to go through your menus and click things without having to use your voice, and you can do things that you can't do with using your voice. He also says that he's working on with a development team to try to develop Google Glass apps to be able to do more with your voice. So hopefully in the future, as Google Glass becomes more commercially available and a lot less money, because right now they're pretty expensive. I'd love to have one, but a little out of my price range. once it becomes more commercially available, I have a feeling you're going to see more of these apps pop up again because of an open source community, and there's tons of need out there.
You got it. All right, so we're going to move on to the third story.
Yeah, unless you have something else you want to add.
No, I think there's lots to be said about wearable technology, and hopefully we'll have some discussion on the community regarding that. There's lots of people working on stuff out there, and there's lots of projects on the go, and if there's a real interest in the community, maybe we can have an entire show dedicated to open source hacking, if you will, whether it's the Google Glass or...
I'd love to get some live guests going on this show, and I feel like this would be an area that would be widely or easier for us to get a guest on the show for, because it's an open source community, and everybody not everybody, but a good chunk of the people in our community have dealt with open source stuff, and we're all fairly interested in wearable technology. From what I've noticed, anyway. So I feel like that would be a great sort of avenue, possibly for live guests.
Yep, I agree. We'll have to start digging around and see what we can find.
Yes, well, that would be my job as the producer, right?
Yes. All right, so story number 3 was actually a YouTube video that kind of inspired me to do some research on the topic. It was a YouTube video produced by Microsoft and released under the name Steve Gleason, No White Flags. And Steve Gleason was a football player who has ALS, and he requires AAC software and hardware to communicate with his friends and family. And one of the great things that came from that video was a discussion that Jeremy and I had leading to what hardware and software is actually being used, because they talked about how Steve was actually using the hardware and software, but they really didn't make any mention of what it was that he was using aside from Windows 8. So after doing some digging, I was able to find out that the hardware, aside from the tablet, the hardware that's being used to emulate the voice and do the feedback was actually something called a Tobii AAC device, and it's for tablets, and it's not just for the Surface with Windows 8 on it. You can use other tablets as long as they're running the Windows 8 platform. And
there is a, sorry for cutting off. There is what was it? There's a combination pack, I guess you could pick up, where they specifically choose a Dell tablet. Now, I'm not exactly sure why they specifically choose a Dell tablet rather than the Surface, other than the fact that it makes the rig much more compact.
Yeah, I think that really is what it boils down to, is size. The Dell is certainly smaller than the Surface, no question.
The thing I really liked about it was the family aspect and him being able to communicate with his son through this AAC, and just that idea of communication for somebody that has lost communication, and to his son that may not understand that his father has lost communication. It kind of tugs at your heartstrings, and I know I'm getting a little mushy here, but things like that really, I don't know, they kind of get to me.
Well, that's okay.
And just the Tobii is a great piece of hardware.
I did a search on Amazon, and you can actually buy the pack on Amazon with the
Dell, I believe.
With the Dell tablet, and I think it was just about $3,000 for the Tobii and the stand and the tablet. So, in terms of comparability, it's about AAC hardware it's purpose built is fairly expensive in itself. But what this gives a person outside of the ability to communicate with friends and family is that you've got a Windows 8 tablet. So you can do everything. You can do email, you can do calendaring, you can surf the web, you can do all the things that a person could normally do with just a tablet, but they have everything in one spot. They've got the AAC software that's speaking for them. augmentative communication software that's actually speaking for them. They can, and the great thing about this particular device is that it's using eye tracking software to actually do the input.
Yeah, I
So,
was just about to say that. I love the eye tracking.
and that's something specific to Tobii, and it's got to do with the Tobii hardware and its ability to work well with Windows 8.
And that's things that I've noticed, especially coming from Microsoft, that has made some great improvements. They've been really open to putting things like eye tracking in their new computers.
Yeah,
And
I agree. I think that Windows done quite a bit over the last couple of years to improve their ability to serve the accessibility community. They've done a lot to add things that, typically, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, since OS X 10 on the Mac, that having the ability to zoom the whole screen is fantastic. And up until last couple of iterations of Windows, it was never full screen. It was always just sort of this barred window at the top, or it wasn't as easy to use as a full screen magnification. Now they include full screen magnification, which is fantastic, and it's included in the operating system. The eye tracking part is great. It really is great, because for someone who doesn't have use of either of their hands, being able to type and surf the net and send emails and communicate with text messaging, it's a life changer.
yeah, I must say, through my years, and I'm sounding like an old person, I'm not actually that old, but I've seen a good number of people with disabilities, varying degrees, and eye tracking would be so much of a benefit for so many of them, as well as the AAC hardware. The only thing is the price. It's so expensive to get that technology. But that being said, things like this are coming down in price. Just a little while ago, me and Andrew reviewed an app called ProLoco for Text, which is a $200 app for iPad that is an AAC supplement. It doesn't replace it, but it's a supplement. Mind you, there is no eye tracking with the iPad yet. Maybe in the coming years, who knows? You never know where Apple's going to go.
No.
But that's a great supplement, and I'm glad to see that prices are dropping for things like that to make it more available for somebody who may not have the budget to spend, $8,000 on a AAC hardware. And I'm noticing when I looked at the price for Tobii, it was somewhere between $3,000 to $3,500. Even that's a dramatic drop compared to some of the other pieces of hardware out there. And it has the eye tracking capability, which is amazing, and I'm glad to see that.
Plus, what you're forgetting is that if you buy the 3G edition of the tablet, whichever it is, whether it's the Surface or the Dell, I'm not sure.
You have it everywhere. You have it everywhere.
You can have it everywhere. You can be in your chair with the Tobii set up in a tablet and be, in the middle of the city, and be able to check the web, have conversations with people. There's all kinds of stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah. Before we go on to the next story, I'd just like to reiterate that if you guys have any questions, you can leave it in a comment on the event page. Right now, I see there's 2 people watching us. What do you know?
Yay!
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You can leave questions on the event page, or you can contact us via the IRC chat at our website.
Yeah.
Look forward to getting some questions, and we'll gladly answer them. We're watching them like a hawk today because we realized we missed a couple.
And we're trying to do more in terms of accessibility. That's why we introduced the IRC channel, because generally you can, for people who are blind or visually impaired, there's lots of IRC clients out there, and of course text is always better. So for those folks, so IRC's there. We're also going to be providing an audio version of the video, the Hangout, and we've also had a request for captioning. So we're going to try and, for the edited version, we're going to try and get a captioned edition out so that we can have a closed captioning as well. It won't be live, but we'll be able to provide that on the
on
edited
the
version.
edited version.
Yeah.
And we'll gladly, make any adjustments that you guys need to be able to enjoy our show. Because
Yeah, we want to get it out there to as many people as we can. And I mean, we're still learning. It's the banter's okay for now, but we're trying to keep a regular schedule. We're trying to keep a regular format, and hopefully that will continue to draw people in as time goes on.
so feel free to share our message, guys, and or girls, whoever's watching. And I hope that you guys enjoy. I guess it's time for the next story, and I'll take this one.
Sure.
Uh, the next story is actually, it's a YouTube video that was posted on our community. It was posted by, let's see, who was it posted by?
Utah Assistive Technology
Yeah, that's
Program.
right. Yeah, that's right. Utah Assistive Technology Program. Thanks for sharing this. And it's a video about multi-switch access for your iPad for people who have limited mobility function in their hands or whatever. You could use any kind of switch, but in this particular video, they were using a 3-button system. So one button would be to move your cursor, I guess you could say, to the left, one button to move to the right, and another button to click to actually access the app or the folder or whatever, for people who, like I said, have limited use. And I feel that it's another open source thing.
Yeah, this is another Arduino microcontroller project.
Exactly. And it seems like this show is a very open source show, and I think that's actually going to be the title of this episode, is Open Source Galore or something like that. And I'm glad to see things like this as a person who, like I said prior, only has use of one hand, and knowing people that don't have use of their hands at all. Sorry for my poor English. It's great to see things because people that typically couldn't use an iPad can now access it via multi-switches, and it's opening up a new field because iPads are great for many things, medical purposes, keeping records, school, social activity. They're just great in general. I love my iPad. I carry it around with me everywhere. Andrew's a witness to that. Like I
Yep.
don't leave home without my iPad. And if
I
I do,
have an iPad 2 mini as well, but mine's 3G, and I love it.
I remember one time I came to work without my iPad, and I seriously sat in Andrew's office like, I need to go home. I need to get my iPad.
Jonesing.
I needed my iPad fixed, and I know that's horrible, but without my iPad, I feel like I can't do as much. I can't be as social. I can't be as active on Google+. I can't communicate with the people here in this lovely community, and I like doing it so much. And this multi-switch just makes that available to so many other people, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, and it should be said too that I mean we're both iPad users, but we're not. I'm an Android user as well because I have to be. I mean I
Yeah,
work in the field.
I use Android as well. Not currently right now, but up until recently, my cell phone was Android, and I had an iPad, so I was running both and enjoyed both.
I should say though that the reason why I make that point is because we've tried the tablets, we've tried the iPad, we've tried the Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy, we've tried the Acer tablets, and I always end up coming back to the iPad because of those built-in features and the availability of software. Now that's probably just because it's a hot topic right now. The iPads are everywhere, and every news story that you seem to see come up with respect to hardware hacking and so on with respect to accessibility is all being done with the iPad. And so that's where we're at. It's not a matter of...
For me, that seems weird because Apple's always been the closed company. They've always been, we're not letting anyone near open source stuff unless you're going to break the law. And Google's always been the, here you go, you mess with it, you get it to work the way you want it to work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be that way right now. The availability for apps on Android without paying, a chunk of money is few and far between, and even the ones you do pay for just don't supplement as well as the ones that are available on iPad.
Now there could be somebody out there watching this video may have some suggestions
And
for
and if you do,
send them along,
send
please.
us along because we're working on projects here at work to figure out what apps are used for accessibility or could be used to make a student's life easier. But they don't have to be just for students. Like I said, I'm an Android user. I plan on continuing to use both throughout my life just because they're there, and I'm a big tech person. And I'm interested in assistive technology. So if you have any apps that you find are useful for Android, send them along, and who knows, we might even do an app review about them.
Well, we will do app reviews, of course, for Android and Windows 8 and so on. It's just
And Linux.
we got a lot of stuff to do, we'll just sort of eventually pick away at it. If there's any particular areas of interest that folks who are watching this live or pre-record or recorded have, then please send them in. Send your questions in, and we'll get them answered.
Yes.
All right. So last story.
Yeah, this would be the last story.
All right. You doing this one or me?
I say you because I just did the last one.
All right. Well, the story number 5 is brought to us by Jim Sandstrom, plus Jim Sandstrom, and the title is "Prosthetic Hand Gives Amputee a Sense of Touch." And I think this is pretty cool, even though it's in early stages. It's not released to the public yet. They were still working on it. It's the future, because the fact that they can isolate nerve endings that would have been stimulated when the signal was sent from the brain to your hand to grip or touch can be not reactivated but utilized in this technology to simulate touch, to actual real touch, is just fantastic. I mean, the fact that they can put this on, and you can see pictures of it at the link that's going to be in the show notes. A person can, tell the difference between the touch of an orange and a softball, or an orange and a tennis ball, just by grabbing it. And there's so many possibilities with respect to this, not only for touch, but I can see for leg amputees, a sense of touch for when they're walking, for balance, and all kinds of different things. There's a lot of different avenues that this technology is going to make open. Jeremy,
when I saw the story, the first thing I thought of was the smart leg, which is a piece of technology that was created here at our university.
Okay, Jeremy. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to tie it up here. So,
Yep.
So let's you're doing the final mentions there.
Yeah. Just like to say that if you guys have any further questions about the prosthetic limb, you can drop us a question to our email at datshow@gmail.com or in the community, and we'll do our best to do research and answer the questions. Sorry, we're kind of abruptly ending the show, and any suggestions or questions, like I said, you can email us, or you can drop us a line on our website, which is www.datt.tv. Look forward to seeing y'all next week.
I'm Andrew Daley, plus Andrew Daley.
I'm Jeremy Murray, and see you.